great to have the opportunity to talk with you today. How are you doing? How are things going? You're a busy lady.
Yeah, it's busy. It's good. I'm very, yeah, I'm excited to be here and talking to you.
Listen, I really enjoyed the film, and you know what? I think it speaks to everyone. It doesn't matter what religion, it doesn't even, honestly, because this is such a universal topic. Family, how they get along, treating or caring for an elderly parent or somebody who's sick. It's just so universal. So I want to start by asking, what was it that triggered you? I know you started writing this, almost 10 years ago.
Yeah, it's so embarrassing.
Right? But here we are now.
Here we are.
Yeah. What triggered it? I was curious.
I mean, I wanted to explore the dynamics between siblings.
Yeah.
I love indie film. I love family films. I love coming of age films. I love the dialogue that you hear in films by people like Woody Allen and Noah Baumbach and just like those kinds of films. But I wanted to see it from my perspective. I wanted to have South Asians in it. And selfishly, I wanted a vehicle to be in, like I wanted a film that I could act in.
Why not?
So I was like, so this is going to be it. And then over time, it got a lot more serious for me. I had shelved it for a while. I brought it back, shelved it. And then once I got into a screenwriter's lab at Whistler Film Festival, it just got a lot more serious and became a lot deeper. And it became just more of a wonderful process of writing and learning these characters and who they were and what they wanted.
Yeah. And what I loved about it is to me, it just felt so real because, who doesn't have a sibling that you want to tell off or that you're jealous of, or, you just don't get along, or you do get along, but you just, and here's Mona, your character, who is at home taking care of her dad. And her siblings are often, wherever, New York, Toronto, wherever the heck they are. And then they come back when they find out, like, oh, yeah, he might be dying, and the brunt of it is all on her. And so she's resentful. It's an interesting story, because it was so real. Where did you draw on for that realism?
I think just from, like, I'm such a voyeur. So I think it was, part of, my life, part of watching my mother, who has 3 siblings as well, watching friends and their dynamics with their family. And really just trying to get really specific about Mona. And she was a bit of a puzzle for me because, like on one hand, she says she wants to like write, but she's not writing. So what's stopping her, and she's, she really needs her, even though she has this complicated relationship with her father, she does love him and she really needs him alive because this is her safe place. Like if he goes, then she has to face the world and she has to face her failures. And she has no
excuse. She has to start writing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's like, it's layered and it's complicated. And so it took a while for me to kind of figure out who she was in all of this.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I can't even imagine. And then, starring, writing, directing, casting. I don't know. You must have done craft service. I can't imagine.
Here's some granola bars.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. How did you handle it all? How did you, compartmentalize everything?
Well, the writing process was its own thing. And so I made like a distinct shift to put my director's hat on and like just begin that process. The acting, I mean, I've been acting for a really long time. So I do feel like this machine knows what it's doing.
Okay, good.
So it wasn't like I had to learn anything. I knew the character, I knew this thing. But I did work with an acting coach, Orsi Stabo, for a few months in advance, just to really understand Mona's arc, what each scene required. Yeah. But I was able to kind of put that aside and then just really focus on the directing. And it was really about just being super prepared. Like I worked with my DP, Leo Harem, and I had this thing called a Bible by the end of it, which was literally every single scene cut down. And it was like, the shot list and diagrams and, what the wardrobe is and why, what light I wanted and what soundtrack I would imagine, just like everything. So that if my brain froze one day, I'm like, I would just have to point and people would understand what I was talking about. So
Right, right. No, it's
yeah.
great. It's great. And, like I said, the cast is really good. And I thought that the sibling dynamic worked very, very well. But I first want to talk about Kim Coates because, God, I love that guy. There's just nothing he can't do, and what an interesting relationship Mona has with him, but him coming on board, and also he's one of the producers as well. So what was how did he all, come together? Had you guys known each other before?
No, my producers knew him. So Karma Films, they'd worked with him a few times. And so when we were thinking about names and stuff like that, his name came up like at the first one. And I was like, oh yeah, like I know him. He's one of those people where like his work.
Right.
But until like you really, like for me at least, until I really started doing the research, I didn't realize that I had really known him. And so I started like Googling him after he had said yes. And I saw that he was in Waterworld. And I was like, oh my God, that's the guy.
Yeah.
And so I had to shut my computer because I'm like, I can't know anymore because I don't want to be starstruck around him,
Oh.
He's just so great. And he had a really tight schedule. So he had to shoot him out in the first 3 days. So all of his stuff was at the beginning. But I think what it did was it just sort of like, it made everyone, first of all, really excited, but it also kind of put everyone brought their A game because he brings his A game. Like he cares so much. And I think his heart and how much he cares is the reason why he works so much and he does such great work, is because at, decades after having this amazing career, he's not tired.
Right.
Like he's still like going and he's still like so passionate about every single project he's a part of, like in a really sincere way. So it was just really awesome. And just to have him, like, I feel super excited and grateful that he did it.
Yeah. And clearly because he's, had such success across the border, and then he comes back and does this Canadian film. I mean, kudos to you, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I mean, he's a Saskatchewan boy, right? So like the crew was so excited to have him there. And it just, it just really raised the morale for sure.
Yeah, there's so many scenes that hit home for me. The one I really want to discuss. So when the siblings kind of finally like just go at each other, and the oldest brother Parm, he just lets it out. Like he's trying to keep everything under control and keep his mouth shut, and he's got his secrets and and whatever. But when he yells at Mona and he basically kind of knocks her out of her shell, like, Mona, you're a mess, deal with it. How hard was it to shoot that? That was pretty dynamic.
Oh, thank you. I cast so that I knew I could rely on these actors. We did do some rehearsals prior. So, and me and Stephen worked quite extensively because he was, he is his dad's from Goa, his mom's Iranian, he is South Asian, but he's not Sikh Punjabi. So this was very new to him, this whole world, and he really wanted to honor it in the best way possible. And so, we really worked together, and he went really deep and got very familiar with the culture and all of that. And so I felt like by the time we were on set, like these actors knew their characters better than I did, and that was such a relief for me because then I could just let the cameras roll and let them improvise, or like, and I knew that, obviously direct them as need be, but I didn't have to teach them how to do anything, like right. They're pros. So in terms of just like where the arc was for that scene or whatever, like we had already talked about it. We had already talked about the musicality of it, and the tone of it. And it all just kind of came together. It never felt labored.
Yeah, no, it felt it. Like I felt a real family dynamic there. It really, really worked, I have to say. And the other scene I loved was the bar scene where the siblings go and they sing, "Oh, Canada." So I have to know who forgot the words.
Of "Oh, Canada"? Does it sound like someone forget the word?
No, I'm just wondering because sometimes when you put, listen, it's our national anthem, but sometimes when you put it to that position, you're like, do I remember? Because they've changed the words over the years.
That's a really good question. I think the background actors probably did. The actor, like Sandy and Hussein and Steven, they were such pros. Like they knew exactly. They probably practiced it in the shower that morning just to like be prepared. Yeah, so it was, I love that scene. It was super fun. Actually, Kim wasn't in that scene and he came to just watch and like hang out at the bar, like, you know, while we were shooting it. So it was just like, it felt like a party during COVID.
Hey, why not? We need all the distractions we can get, I can tell you.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But yeah, I really love that scene.
Yeah.
It's yeah.
No, go ahead.
Oh,
No.
I was just gonna say it's been interesting because we shot it. And it was partly like, as you know, a second generation, as someone who's from immigrant parents, I think our relationship to Canada is very it's specific, you know, like there was kind of like this love for this country because of what it's provided. But then it has been interesting because during editing and everything, like so much has come up, and it's loaded now. Like the national anthem is a loaded anthem, and Canada is loaded, you know, and so it's really it forced me to like, not, it didn't force me, but I wanted to change that first line of the anthem. So it's like our home on native land. Yeah. You know, it's such a small thing, but it's like, it really just sort of points to like the complexity of what it is to be like, I love this country and I'm Canadian, but you know, it has major issues. You know?
Whoa, yeah, I know, right? Yeah, I hear you. I know that's something we could talk about forever. And lastly, I just want to, you know, kudos again to you having Ava DuVernay. Like, oh my God, like that's big.
Yeah, that was pretty epic. I had worked with her. I acted in a mini series she did called DMZ. It's coming out, and so we developed a relationship, and then when we finished editing, you know, we were talking about like film festivals are so weird these days because of COVID. Like it's just hard to know how to navigate the whole thing. And so while we were like trying to, you know, figure that out, we were also talking to distribution companies, and they obviously were my first choice because they're array. Like, you know, you can't, as a BIPOC person, you can't get really, like, it's kind of the pinnacle. So we sent it to them. I literally was not expecting them to take it on because I'm like, well, I'm just going to put it out there. And then they did. And it's been it's really just opened things up, you know, because it's a little Canadian film from Saskatchewan. And now it's.
Well, hello. Yeah, don't, you know, down that. I thought you did such a great job on this film, honestly, and I can't wait to see what you have next. Have you started working on something or thinking about what's coming up?
Yeah, we you know, there is a film that I'm writing right now. We got some development backing from Telefilm, and it's called Tiny Birds with Broken Brains, and it's set in the 80s and 90s in rural Ontario, and it's really focused on like a mother-daughter relationship at two very distinct times in the daughter's life. So wonderful. That's something that I'm really excited about.
Well, good stuff. I will keep our eyes open, and you know, hopefully you'll have that at the Toronto Film Festival, so it'll be all good, right? You've got your life planned out for you already.
Thank you. I'll call you up when it's done.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much for your time today. Really awesome job on this, and best of luck with everything.
Thank you so much.
Okay, bye. Thanks, Angie. Okay, bye.
Thanks, Bonnie.
Okay.